Hello, and welcome to Friendship, Wellness, and Wisdom with your hosts, Heather and Rachel.
Together, we're here to talk about all things self-care, from fitness to mindfulness and everything in between.
Whether it's yoga, Tai Chi, Pilates, or practices like tapping and meditation, we're here to help you discover new ways to care for yourself.
We'll also share tips on positive self-talk, finding time for self-care, and creating routines that stick.
We're here to provide you with plenty of tips, tricks, and unsolicited life advice.
Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Join our community, and together we can explore the path to wellness.
Hello, and welcome to Friendship, Wellness, and Wisdom. Today, we're diving into a topic that we hope sparks inspiration. We're talking about those excited moments when a new idea takes a hold, and then then it steps into like being like this live wire of energy, right? And so Rachel wrote a blog. It's on 5 Minutes for Me. It's a really good blog because it talks about inspiration and pretty much like what to do with it, like how we get inspired and, you have this brilliant idea, this brilliant spark. And then you're like, well, what do I do with it? How do I act on it? Where do I go from here? Right. And so this blog was posted maybe a week or so ago. She sent it out in her newsletter. If you are interested in getting either one of our blogs or whatever, sign up for our newsletters. Hers is at 5minutesforme.com. Mine is at seelifeisamusecreations.com. And we always have blogs coming out and good information. So we're going to get started. We're going to go back and forth with questions, and we're just going to dive in.
All right.
Awesome. So, Rachel, you mentioned starting with capturing the inspiration, right, as it strikes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So why do you think this step is essential, and how does it help you to maintain the initial excitement?
So I know for me, if I don't like write it down, do something instantly with it, I kind of lose part of it. Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like the first step for me is when I have an idea, I need to at least get it down so I can start rolling with it. And it's always best, like if I have like a few minutes while I'm doing, I have a few minutes to sit down and take care of it. If I don't, sometimes the easiest thing to do is I'll pick up my phone and I'll literally go into Chat GPT and I'll be like, I want to create this. And I will literally just spit out all the ideas that I have.
Okay.
And then a lot of times it'll just come back with suggestions. It'll be like, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And when that's the case, I will just go with that and I'll pick one and I'm like, okay, so let's do this, but let's add this, and this.
Okay.
And then I start working from there. And if I don't have my phone with me or whatever, I will literally sometimes pick up a pad and paper and literally just like write down a bunch of ideas. I do really like using AI, especially like in the moment to like capture things so that I can get as much down as possible and keep it as organized as possible. Because if I throw it down on a piece of paper, it tends to get a little bit messy. I'll get disorganized and I'll lose my train of thought. I am also not. God bless you.
I was trying to pause you, but I couldn't speak.
Oh, God, that was funny.
Sorry. That
All
must have been
good.
loud. I'm so sorry.
Well, you didn't scare me, so that's good. I was surprised, but not startled. So
okay.
I saw like that, and then I was like,
I was like, whoa, it's coming. It's coming. So sorry about that. All right.
all right,
Where were you?
Okay, so I may go back a little bit. So I'm just going to say I usually like to go in and use like an AI, like ChatGPT, and speak into it, get out as much as I can, and like all the things that I want to include.
Right.
And it's a little bit easier for me that way. This way, it's not like on scraps of paper and I'm trying to like put it all back together like puzzle pieces.
Right.
And the great thing about using something like that in that way is it'll format it for me.
Oh.
So that's what I love about that too, because I will literally I will use the AI to help me put it together, but most of the time, like the creation comes from me. I'm like, I want to do this. I want to include this. I want to include this, and I want to include this.
Hmm.
Um, but I struggle sometimes with formatting things or how to put it together. And I
So it
like
like
doing it
builds you an outline type thing.
it'll build you an outline, but it'll also give you suggestions. And the great thing is you can pick and choose.
Oh,
So it may give me an idea I didn't have initially on my own. And I can
okay.
have it research that or give me examples and then I can choose what I want.
Okay.
Um, and I love doing that. But like I love just getting it down like the second that it strikes so I don't lose number one any of the thoughts that I have in my mind at the time or
Right.
again the enthusiasm and the excitement that I have. I
Yeah.
feel like capturing that excitement really just kind of pushes me forward and I
Uh-huh.
want to keep going at that point because if you push it off till later in the day sometimes you get busy, you start doing other things and then you don't get back to it.
Right.
And then it's
Right.
like, "Oh, that long lost idea that I had." So and this is how I do a lot of my
I
writing, how I come up with a lot of the things that I do put out, the videos that I put out, the blogs that I write, like
uh
the ideas for my courses or whatever. When it like when that comes to me, I literally just try to get it all out, like right
uh
in the moment so that I don't lose it.
yeah, I talk into my phone into my Google Doc when I
Mhm.
have ideas. And that's why my Google Docs is like so chunky because every idea, like I have like just a blatant ideas folder
Yeah.
of, just a bunch of stuff. And I build a lot of things in the moment, not knowing what I'm going to do with them.
Right, yeah.
Right.
I
So
do
like,
too. And
so a
it's
lot
sitting
of,
there. I have a lot of Google Docs like that too,
right.
because that's where I move them from ChatGPT into my Google
Yeah.
Docs so that it's all there. So that if I get another like strike of inspiration, I'll
Right.
go back to that. I'm like, oh, I remember I created this. Like, I got this
Yeah,
other idea. I
totally.
know what I can do with this now.
Yeah. And so like I'll build like pieces of programs,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
you know how I am with documents and building all that stuff. Like you've gotten tons of them. But the
Oh, yeah.
reality is like I'll build them and like we just built that gratitude program and I was like, "Oh, I have all this that I built and this
Right.
could go with this." And and it wasn't those were built prior to the program, like
Yeah, no, I
way
have a lot
prior
like that
to.
too. And I think that's what's great though, right? So you got inspired to do that. You weren't really sure where you were going with it or what you were doing with it.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden it like clicks and comes together. And what's great about that is you don't have to then go in and do all of that work from scratch. You have
Yeah,
it already. So the opportunity comes along and you're ready,
right.
which is
And
just like,
I think it's Mel Robbins that
yes.
says the like 5 seconds, like you have 5 seconds to act on like that spark in your brain. So you
Hmm.
have to write it down and like act on it, or else your brain just kind of like is like moving on.
Right, and then you know what happens too when you do that, which always gets me so angry, is like you see someone else like did that. They captured that idea. That was your
Yeah,
idea. You had that idea first. Like, right? You had that idea like 5 years ago. Well, guess what? Like that idea was out there in the universe and someone else grabbed it and they took some
yeah,
action, which we'll
yeah.
get into, in this too, and that's like huge.
So our second question, our conversation already went into the second question of
Mhm.
the AI or the chat
Chat GPT, yeah.
GPT. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, I'll get there. Uh, so defining the end goal is another step you
Mhm.
covered, right? So like seeing the big picture. Why is this so crucial to establish what success looks like when you're building something like this?
Well, I feel like you need to know what you're working towards. So if you don't really have an end goal in mind, there's like too many different directions you can go off into. And
Hmm.
with that many possibilities, I know with myself, I'll get distracted and I'll go off on tangents and I'll come up with like 16 different ideas for one
Hmm.
thing that I can do. Whereas if I have an end goal in mind, it kind of it'll narrow my focus and make it
Right.
easier for me to know what to work on and what order to work on it in.
Right. No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of
So,
sense. So it's like just like I know sometimes I work backwards.
yeah, I've done
Uh,
that before too. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
and so that's what that reminds me of. Like if I know what the end goal, because sometimes I'll have the idea of the end goal, and then I'll be like, well, how do I get there? Right.
Yeah.
So I have to know what the end goal is, and then I kind of work backwards from that.
Hmm.
Right.
Absolutely. No, I get that.
So you describe breaking down tasks into small, manageable steps.
Hmm.
What would you say to someone who feels overwhelmed just by breaking down the process? Like, what kind of advice would you give them?
So, I mean, if you know like what big idea you want, the
Hmm.
next thing to do is to really break it down into steps because I know, especially for me, I'll get overwhelmed really quickly if I don't put break things down into small parts. So, if I
Hmm.
have this huge, big thing that I want to do, you break it down into chunks, right? So, like if you have something that's like a huge project, maybe you break it down into like five basic categories,
Hmm.
and then from those categories, you break those down. I still go back into like making outlines like we did for reports in like third grade,
Yeah.
right? You have your big section, your overview, that's A. And then you have like your topic one, and then it would be like one A, B, C, and then like two A. And I will break things down sometimes, literally do it in my Google Docs, like I am writing
Mm.
a third grade
Yeah.
report because I need to break it down that small. Otherwise, it's so daunting and scary and
Hmm.
overwhelming that I won't want to do it. So like
Oh,
I literally like to, and again, like Mel Robbins, like she's the Lego blocks, right? You dig
yes.
one little step. And that's how I need to do it. Everything has to be, and for me, I'm always like bite-sized pieces, right? That's
Hmm.
like I put out like all of those like little bite-sized exercises,
Yeah.
break it down small. You can look at it, you can understand it, you can digest it, and then
Hmm.
then you can go to the next step.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
That's,
like I said, it's like this big scary monster that you feel like you can't get away from. But like bigger broad categories, like
yeah.
make big chunks. And then from those chunks, like start to break those down into smaller pieces until you get down to like the smallest step possible.
Yeah.
And then try to take, and then start taking those steps.
Yeah. I personally love to build outlines. If you haven't noticed, I build outlines all the time. So
I don't, yeah, I mean, I'm sure maybe Tara at this point knows as well as I do, but I'm pretty sure I know. And anyone that you worked with at your previous job, I'm sure has seen all your
I
that.
like to write.
I do too, and I'm like,
Yep.
I will pen and paper it too sometimes. Like when I can't figure something out or I don't know what to do, I will like literally like I will draw a picture. Like I'll put things in boxes.
Hmm.
Like yeah,
That's awesome. So you mentioned prioritizing tasks to avoid sidetrack, getting
hmm
sidetracked, right? How do you decide what's essential? Like, how do you decide what you have to have?
yeah. So the essential tasks, right, are the ones that are they're directly contributing, right? So you
Hmm.
need to know like your key points of whatever it is you're doing. So like if you're having a party and it's a birthday party, like okay, key points, right? So I want to have like balloons. I want to have stuff that says happy birthday. I want to get a cake. Like the cake
Hmm.
would be a key point. If you're writing a blog, then you want to make sure that the points that you want to get across to your reader
Right.
are what you do first. So let's maybe come up with like, these are the points I want people to get from this blog. Like, I want them to know that you want to break things down into small steps. You want to capture the inspiration right as it strikes. You
Hmm.
want to um, make your categories broad strokes and like small steps.
Right.
So that's it. So this is what I wanted to get out to my reader of this blog. Like these are the points that I wanted to get out there. So I came up with the broad category, right? Those are my key points. That's what I want you to know.
Right.
That's the information I want to get out there. And then, from there, we're going to describe that, define it, break it down.
Yeah, totally. So creating a timeline, right,
Mm-hmm.
with milestones in another technique is another technique that you shared. So
Absolutely.
you want to go through that, building that timeline?
Yeah, so it's really funny. I did put this in here, and I am not gonna lie. I do give myself timelines, but most of the time when I'm inspired to do something,
Hmm.
I will literally I will dive right in again because I don't want to lose that spark.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose my momentum, and I'm like, well, while I'm having the idea, I just don't want to miss any of that information that's in my brain and like ready to
Hmm.
go. Um, if I hit a point where I've gotten past that point and now I have steps that I need to get done, and I, especially on tasks, like I am not always the biggest fan of research unless I get inspired to research something,
Yeah.
right? So when I know I have to research something, this is where a timeline really comes in for me.
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, well, I need to write the blog by Sunday. So next Sunday. So, on Monday, I'll come up with my broad topics. On Tuesday, I'll research each one of these projects and, narrow it down. By Wednesday, I'll do this. And I'd like to have my blog written by Thursday this way if I want to like look for pictures or do that.
Hmm.
And I do. I have to give myself deadlines and timelines. Otherwise, I will get nothing done.
And I struggle with the research piece because I get lost in the research.
I
You know
do
how like
too.
people talk about doom scrolling? I doom
Do
research.
research. Yeah.
And I am so much of a, hard book person. And like, if I am reading one thing and something sparks me, then whatever sparks me in that one thing, then I open up another book and I'm reading that. So now I have a stack of books in front of me. And I'm literally, and then I'm like, what did I start researching in the beginning?
Right. And I will. So if I know that something is in a specific book that I have that I've read already,
Hmm.
I will then go back to AI and will say, hey, like this part of this book, like, can you break this down for me? And then give me a quote or give me the scientific research that backs this up. And again, like I will go back and use AI in that way to just like, I know what I want to say, but I know the tangents that I will run off on.
Yeah.
So I will go back to that. And I've had it create like larger portions of things for me, but most of the
Hmm.
time I use it to do the things that I'll either get like sucked into
Right.
and like taken away like off. So I'll have that do it for me so that it's streamlined and I don't get like overwhelmed with the task or like sucked down a rabbit hole
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
just research and
I can see the benefit of that. Totally.
yeah,
Absolutely.
no, I mean I will still do both at
Yeah.
times. And it does sometimes depend on how much time I have
Yeah.
while working on a project. If I've gotten my project mostly finished and I just need to tie up like little loose ends and find like the research that backs this up or like where to find this other information or other key points, I will go in and have it that do that part for me so that I can get past
Hmm.
everything and finish my projects because
Right.
I'll get stuck a lot of times, like on the little bits and pieces
Right.
of that. But yes, like I always give myself, like I give myself milestones, I give myself deadlines, because if I don't, I will have open projects for like months, years, like
Yeah.
endless,
Endless.
endless.
Endless. I have them too. Uh,
Yeah,
so let's see. The idea of taking the first step immediately is
yeah,
powerful. We just talked about
absolutely,
that with Mel Robbins' 5 second thing, or five.
absolutely.
I think it's 5 minutes, 5 seconds, something around there.
Yeah.
Why do you think? Why do you think taking that small action in that moment? Why do you think that's such a trigger?
It really is because I think if you stop and you wait and you put it off, it kind of you're telling yourself it's not that important.
Mm,
Um, and I don't like to do that. When I really get inspired by something,
hmm.
I like the feeling of that excitement, and I feel like a lot of people do too. And the more you like wait and step away from it, the less you feel that.
Yeah, I can
So
see
I
that.
feel like it's really just capturing that and feeling that excitement and putting that into your work. Um because it does it like it just makes such a big difference for me. I'm feel like I'm losing the way to explain the feeling, but I feel like taking a step is essential, right? We all
Mhm,
think about doing things.
mhm.
Oh, wouldn't it be great if, wouldn't it be wonderful if, and then you think about it, but you don't take the step. So
I think
once
it
you take
gives you
that first step,
momentum.
I get exactly right. So you
Yeah,
take that first step and then you've got the momentum to keep moving forward. If
right.
you put it off, a lot of times things just don't get done.
Yeah. And I think once you I think the inspiration is your first step, but once you have the momentum behind the inspiration, the possibilities are really endless, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Once once the once the momentum starts and once you get going, more things flood. It's kind of like fanning a fire, really.
Yeah.
In my brain, like that's how my inspiration works. Like I get so wrapped up
Right.
in
And one thing leads you to the next, right? So
yeah,
you're doing it, you took that one step, and then as you're taking that step, a lot of times what you want to do next or other
right,
ideas are coming into your mind, which would not have happened if you hadn't have taken the step.
right,
Right? So
absolutely,
like one steps will almost lead you most of the time
yeah,
to the next step.
yeah. And I think the action, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're everybody's inspired in some way, but not everybody takes action, right?
Yeah, no, and that's a big part of it. Like there's
Yeah,
all these you can have all these great ideas, but if you don't do anything with them, and that's why taking that first step is so important because that like really kind of tells you, "Hey, I'm doing this."
right,
And that
right,
sets the tone for the whole project, whatever that project is.
yeah. And it builds excitement too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Um, so let's see. You also mentioned the importance of flexibility in
Yeah.
following an action plan. How do you balance staying on track and being flexible?
So, that's again, like it can be difficult,
Mhm.
but being flexible really helps you again if new ideas are coming in.
Right.
So, and what you also need to know how to do is okay, here's this great idea, how do I fit it in? And also, all right, I have these 10 other ideas, what do I learn to leave out?
Hmm.
Cuz sometimes especially like if there's something that you're really excited about and you really want to do, there's all these ideas.
Right.
And sometimes, especially if it's a project that involves other people,
Hmm.
they're going to come in and they're going to have all their ideas and they're going to want to take plans. So I feel like if you are trying to at least stay to your like key points,
Hmm.
you have to be a little bit open and flexible to like if someone else is coming in, what's going to get done and what really is going to bring that end goal to fruition.
Yeah, that makes
So, sometimes it's just like your initial idea, maybe not everything is available for that and something else happens and it works just as well. It's just not a part of that, original vision.
hmm.
So you want to be open to that flexibility because maybe now that's going to work out so much better
Right.
than what you had originally thought. So it's just easier said than done. It's definitely a learned thing and what I have learned from that is being flexible often like opens me up to like very surprising like positive results.
Yeah, totally. I I'm kind of that way. I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Like I think for me in my brain, like everything works out exactly how it should, even if it's
Yeah.
not how I want it, right? And so having that thought process for me makes things easier
It
because
definitely does make it because I am someone, I mean, you know how I am. Like I'm
yeah.
like, no, it has to be like this. And I'm like, I can only see it one way. And like someone comes up and like a wrench gets thrown into things and I'm like I get upset because it didn't work out the way that I wanted to and 2 days later I'm like damn I'm so glad that happened that was like
Hmm.
and I'm like there was no point in me being like so thrown off and flustered because
Right.
I can be a little bit of a micromanager when it comes to some things, and I don't even see the
Really?
good thing as it's happening. And I'm learning more and more to notice it in the moment.
You're
But
amazing. I
right,
love
but it's
that.
a hard habit to break. It's
But
such a difficult thing to deal with
it,
when that's just like that's your habit and that's
yes,
so how you're used to doing things. And it's like, all right, at
but
least I can finally notice
but the
that
other
that's just
thing,
not serving me.
is, when we look at, how we have to move forward on planning and things like that, and move forward to function,
Hmm.
in our everyday realm. The reality is, it's a survival technique.
Yeah,
And so, even though it stresses you out, it is your survival technique to
yeah,
kind of like structure things into a certain way. I'm more of a go ready set kind of person. I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, well, we'll figure it out as we go. Like what we were
No,
just
I'm
talking.
more like ready, set, wait, ready, wait, ready,
Well, and I know
set,
even.
and then all of a sudden, like
Mhm.
one day, it's just like I don't even go to ready, set. I'm just like go, go, go.
Yeah. Well, I remember starting the podcast and you were like, "Oh, we're doing this." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, we got it. Like we're
Yeah,
doing this. We got
like
email, we got."
I'm like, because I can plan for 6
Yeah.
more weeks
Yeah. And
easily.
you're like, "Oh, no, like we're doing it." And I'm like, "Yeah, we're doing it." And you're like, "Okay, okay. I thought
And I,
we were
but
just
it's
talking about it, but we're
that's,
doing
I
it."
mean, it was good. Yeah, no, because I need that. Otherwise, it takes me a long time. And I have to say, I do always eventually take action. Like
Mhm.
I won't sit around and talk about something and not take steps to do it. I
Mhm.
will always take action. It sometimes takes me a little longer than I would like it to.
Yeah.
And I'm always glad that I did though, because even if it's not perfect, the learning that takes place along the way is so great. And then I know more, and then I can do more even faster than I thought I would be able to because I kind of jumped in
Yeah. And I
or
think
someone pushed me, which
yeah,
always helps.
totally felt. Grab my hand, let's go.
Yeah.
Um the other thing is done done is always better than perfect, because
Yes.
you as things get out there, and as your ideas get out there, and as you are inspired to inspire others with your things, if you don't share your gifts, then you're really robbing the people around you, all the stuff that you have. So, like, we all have a gift, right? Every single one of us has a gift to share. And if we don't share it, then it just sits there and does
Yeah.
nothing. But if you share it and you inspire one person, only one person, to do something, and then they share their gift, and it's super
Yeah, no,
contagious.
it's like a
Like,
snow yeah, it's a
inspiration's
snowball
awesome.
effect. Yeah, it
Yeah,
really is. And it's just like sometimes that one little spark, that one little thing that you did can set that off in someone else. And
right.
it's just, yeah, it's pretty amazing to see.
Yeah. And if you are, if you never take action, then
Yeah.
then nobody gets to see it, and it's
Mhm.
usually pretty amazing. So, finally, what would you say to someone who is worried about the action plan, worried about taking action?
All right. So the action plan's there for support, right? So you're
Hmm.
just there's no limit, right? So you got to go out there, you got to be creative. I just ugh. There's just so many part, right? So use your action plan, use it as a guide, like use it loosely, but
Hmm.
take the action,
Right.
right? And that's the most
Yes.
important thing. You can always go back and redo things later.
Yeah. Totally.
So just
Which is so
take your
nice.
inspiration, make sure you take action because nothing's ever going to happen unless you take those steps. So
Yes.
take some sort of a step. Even if
Absolutely.
you take slow steps, even if you take breaks in between steps, take the steps. Create the project. If you don't
Hmm.
like it, you can smash it and start over with at
Hmm.
least what you've learned from it. And now maybe the steps get a little bit easier. You know what you're going to do, where you're going to go from there, but you've done it now. You've taken that action,
Hmm.
which shows you that you can do it,
Yeah.
right? And then it's easier to go from there, to continue to take action. And then you can build your plans in the ways that you like to do things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I
So
think it's also a teachable moment for you to know,
absolutely.
like, it if even if this is your first thing of inspiration that's
Hmm.
driving you, and then you can learn how to develop an action plan. You can learn what
Exactly.
is your personal action plan to
Right,
get
and then
there.
you create a process, like, you can
Yeah,
kind of come up with your own personal process, and for each thing that you do, like, whatever each project, you
right.
can create, like, your own kind of personal way that you do it, like, step by step, and the good thing is if you're open, you can learn, and you can change, and you can
Hmm.
redevelop
Right.
along the way.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. So, as we wrap it up, Um, Rachel, thank you so much for sparking this one because it's a really good one. You and
Thank
I
you.
are very inspired. We inspire each other all the time, and we have people in our lives that are inspiring us on a constant. So we hope that we're
Absolutely.
inspiring you. We hope
Yeah.
that we're inspiring our audience to do something amazing. So for everyone who has listened, we hope that you've learned something today. You feel more confident in taking action with the things that inspire you.
Yeah.
And we hope that, we could venture in your ideas that you have developed
Absolutely. Yeah,
into,
if you have
yeah,
any, share them with us. Like,
yeah,
let us know what you're doing, what you're planning to do, what you're taking action on.
yeah. And if you enjoy this conversation, be sure to subscribe, share this episode with friends, and sign up for our newsletter because we always have a newsletter once a week, and we or new blog once a
New
week.
Yeah.
Sorry, and our newsletter shares our blogs. So yeah, so we appreciate you, and this was a great blog. So go read it on 5 minutes for me. It's awesome.
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Thanks for listening to Friendship, Wellness, and Wisdom. Don't forget to subscribe or follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on social media for more updates. See you next time.